What's up, guys? It's Steve Cardenas, aka Rocky the Red Power Ranger, and you are watching Smart Tank Revolution.
And welcome back to the Smart Tank Revolution, where we always kick out at two. I am your host, the benevolent, intelligent, flying solo today, Mr. Donnie Wonderful. And welcome back to another episode or installment of The Essentials. Today, we are talking about Yokozuna. And recently, have you guys been watching the A&E stuff that they've been producing with the WWF slash WWE bios? Been really great, man. I tip my hat off to them. They've been really great, man. And I was just watching. I've been watching a lot of Yokozuna stuff, but like just some of the YouTube documentaries about him. And then this happened to come on. It's a few weeks old, but like I happened to catch it during the time where I've been binge watching a lot of Rodney Yoko stuff and just wanting to hear stories about him because after the Undertaker, Yokozuna was the first monster heel that was the next monster heel that I became familiar with, and he debuted it in '92, and he had an aura about him. He was huge. Um, oh, and there was also a meme. Shout out to Kev on stage. There was a meme, not a meme. I'm sorry. He did a skit, and it was right around the time when the bio came out. Now, because we're smarks, I learned this a long time ago. But what Kev on stage, the comedian, was saying is that he had no idea that Yokozuna was Samoan and that his name was Rodney. He really thought that he was Japanese. And I believe I put in the comments, I said, "Hey, wait till you find out the truth about Mr. Fuji." He's Samoan too. Hey, but yeah, like just a lot of things fell perfectly in place to get Yoko on here, and he falls into a category of he's never on the Mount Rushmore list, but he deserves to be acknowledged as a monster heel champion with at the time, especially in the new generation era, who had a decent run as champion. And I mean decent as far as the length and longevity. Whereas, Roman Reigns is on the 1487th day, depends on whatever day we watch. You know, Yoko, remember, if his 28 or minute and 28-second title run wasn't interrupted by Hulk Hogan, he would have carried that belt and essentially did from WrestleMania 9 to WrestleMania 10, and in between that, we'll get to that because some of the rivalries I'm going to have to reference in the rating system, which the criteria it's in the description box. Two rating systems. One by Bret Hart from his autobiography, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling. Judges three categories from 1 to 10, and then our Smart Tank Revolutions rating system called the Essentials, where we rank from 1 to 5, and with decimals in between. So, without further ado, no long-winded intro here. We're going to get straight into it now. First thing that we're going to talk about is the wrestler's look. Yokozuna was billed 505 pounds when I first saw him, and up until recently, and like the past like 5 years, I had no idea about the Coquina Kid or anything like that. So I'm gonna do this one strictly off of Yokozuna, which sadly is only going to give me, I think, 4.5 years. So, and I love Yoko. I love the Samoans. I love them all. So, but this was probably going to be the scores are more concise because of the years that I'm doing it from. So, but anyway, the wrestlers look. I don't remember how tall he was, but I mean, like if Yokozuna, as Joey would like to say, my esteemed colleague, shout out to the Oracle, Mr. Joey Business, if he's in the line ordering food and you're behind him and you ask him, hey man, what do you do? And he turns around and he says professional wrestler, you're going to believe it. If he says football player, you believe it. He's a large man, a very, very, very large man. One thing about those Samoans, they are all strength. So I guess the physique and appearance kind of go hand in well for Yoko, it's going to go hand in hand because it's mainly his appearance. But the presentation, and these are days without Google or the internet. So, we couldn't double check and see that he was actually Samoan, but they presented him as a monster heel from Japan and named him the title of the Sumo Wrestling Championship that we all know as Yokozuna. So I think they did a great job here. I'm going to give Yokozuna a, I'm going to give Yoko man, because this fluctuates. As you all know, if you're familiar with his background, like the weight went from 505 to damn near 700 pounds. I guess which incarnation are we talking about? Like, as if we encompass the whole thing, um, he was able to move well with it, and then he wasn't. So, damn, this is kind of hard. So I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go with the seven. I'm going to and I'm basing that off of the 1992, 1993. He even had the ability in 1994. He was 500 pounds. He was built as 500 pounds. So if he was really 600 pounds and he was able to deliver a super kick, man, like I have to award that, man. The promo ability. So he had a mouthpiece. Mr. Fuji didn't speak good English, but Jim Cornette spoke great English, and he was essentially, well, he would be what Brock Lesnar would be today for the Bloodline. Um, I'm sorry, what not Brock Lesnar, what Paul Heyman would be for the Bloodline. That's what Jim Cornette was for Yokozuna. So the majority of the promos in his championship title run, and I guess his WWF New Generation Prime, Jim Cornette was speaking on his behalf, so we never got a chance to really hear him talk on the mic. We know he can talk. He did have towards the end, we found out that. Oh, I have a funny story. Have to digress. I'm sorry. A funny story. So this was 1995. And this is how I knew that Yokozuna could speak English. I don't ever think I told the story on this channel. So it was before I'm sorry, it was before Survivor Series. Survivor Series. I'm only gonna do one. I'm only gonna go on one tangent now. I promise you. You're gonna like this. So it was Yokozuna, Owen Hart, and the British Bulldog versus versus Shawn Michaels, Diesel, and Bret Hart. 6-man tag. Right before the title match, Diesel and Bret 3 at Survivor Series 1995. So I had to be nine, either 9 or 10, and this was at the Worcester Centrum at the time in Worcester, Massachusetts, and the people that worked the ushers, they were really lenient with letting the kids run up and run up to the guardrail. So they let me run up to the guardrail, and I remember the adults that were ringside. They let me go in, and they let me basically just stand there and be as close to the ring as possible. And these two guys behind me, there were two young guys behind me, they were heckling. I was on the side of the ring, where the heels were, their corner. They were heckling the British Bulldog. Right, I think all three of them, but they were heckling the British Bulldog. I remember Owen Hart ignoring them, but the Bulldog was going back and forth. I mean, and they were saying some vulgar stuff to each other. I mean, listen, at the time, man, look, my virgin ears can't handle this. So what is going on? Hey, listen. Hey, look. If I could say it on there, I mean, YouTube would likely flag me. So that's why I might start a Patreon about this story and go more in depth. Hey, listen. Donnie was appalled. Little Donnie Wonderful was appalled. I said, "Oh my gosh, this is." I mean, at the same time, I'm amazed. I never heard this concoction of cuss words going back and forth, and the Bulldog was doing it. It's going back and forth, and then so Owens ignoring him. They're talking to Davey. Davey's leaning over and he's talking to them. He's talking to them. They're literally right behind me. But they say stuff to Yoko too. And Davey gets up and tells Yoko what he said, and I can read his lips. Now Yoko called him. He said, "Man, he's a that's to be. I mean, I can't say it on here. I can't say it on here. I'm sorry. I know. I let up. I did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I heard Yoko. It was a cuss word. I'm gonna say it's a cuss word. I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. I thought he was Japanese. I had never heard him talk. I mean, I've heard him just say like regular basics, like 1 to 2 words, 2 line stuff. But this one, when I read his lips, what he said, hey, look. We need a an adult rating for that one. But nevertheless, haven't really heard him speak. Sorry for going on that tangent. But yeah, the promo ability, 1 to 10, and I know he spoke later, and like obviously he can articulate himself, and I'm just gonna go with I'm gonna go I'm gonna do a 5. I'm gonna go right in the middle. And the reason why I'm gonna go right in the middle is because it's not like there's an archive of promos that we can judge this off of. And during that time, the delivery of promos was night and day compared to what it would be now. And I think if Yokozuna was wrestling now in this era of wrestling, where the in-ring promos or the backstage promos are pretty prevalent and a part of the show, I think he would shine. So like I'm going straight down the middle at the halfway mark simply because of that. And the next category on Bret Hart's list is the in-ring work, scaled from 1 to 10. And I think this is where he shined, especially earlier on in his career. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the Coquina Kid stuff, but I'm going to give him an 8 here because I think that for as agile as he was and they were able to move that weight without really hurting people, he deserves a nod. And that's saying a lot, man. I mean, like Yoko Yoko was very agile, very athletic. And I'm not talking about in terms of doing flips, but the movements were there. Nothing was exaggerated. The athleticism you can see was there. And I do encourage people to watch the documentaries and even the stuff on YouTube to see him when he was like 350 pounds, what he was doing and how he looked. Man, that was amazing. Yokozuna was always one of my favorite monster heels. Again, like he was literally he took the mantle right after the Undertaker, in my opinion. In my memory, Undertaker became face in I think 1992, and then Yoko, they were building him up, and he had a great Hall of Fame career, as deservedly so. So now we're going to get into the Smart Tanks, our rating system. 3 categories, 1 to 5, with decimals in between. Innovative effectiveness, the ability to work as a babyface or a heel. Um, and when he turned babyface, this is when you heard from him more, and you kind of empathize with him. I really thought in as a babyface when he wrestled Stone Cold on the pre-show. Was it the pre-show to WrestleMania 12? I don't remember. Or was it at WrestleMania 12? Somebody correct me in the comment section. When he was going for the bonsai drop and the rope broke, and Stone Cold beat him. And that promo where he's sitting in the back and you're like, I don't know, I got to do something. You're like that one, man. He got so much sympathy because it was like watching. He was a monster heel literally 3 years before, and now he's like, man, like it was like I hearken that to. I'm a huge Shaquille O'Neal fan, right? I'm a huge Shaquille O'Neal fan. His last year, I was blessed to see him play here in Boston as a member of the Boston Celtics. But that last game he played in, when he got hurt again, you knew that was the last game he was going to play. Say he's not Superman Shaq anymore. He's not Diesel. Like now, like everything, his body's starting to fail him, and that's the feeling that I'm into it, man. Like that, my 12-year-old self, man. Like I was like, oh man, I just want to come out and hug him, man. So he did a good job as a baby face, even though he wasn't baby face for long. So he was mainly a heel. I mean, because he also pissed me off. That casket match, oh my God, WrestleMania 1994. That casket match, you serious? Anyway, I'm going to give him a. I'm gonna give him a three, only because outside of the few short months that he was a babyface. Again, I'm only ranking this from the 1992 to like the end of 1996. So or early 1997 rather. So, there wasn't a lot of there wasn't a program that I can remember outside of that where they were able to build on his babyface appeal, because shortly after that they had to send him to Duke University so he can drop some weight. The classic matches and classic rivalries. I wouldn't necessarily call them classics, but they do mean a lot, and they're staples for the other guys. Here's what I mean by that. So WrestleMania 9, Yokozuna, Bret Hart versus Yokozuna. I think that did the way that match ended. I'm talking about before Hulk Hogan came. The way that match ended with the screwy finish and how Bret was already the underdog. But the way that match finished really propelled Bret Hart. Like, he lost the belt. That was his first title run, but look who he lost it to. He lost it to a monster heel and he took it to him. I think that elevated Bret. So it's classic in that sense. Royal Rumble 1993. I mean, the monster heel, when he came out, I remember watching that. I was with my boy Derek. Shout out to Derek. We were watching this like, I think that's one of the first. I think that was probably the first time we ever cussed in front of people and got away with it. So how they gonna get his big ass out of the ring? Exactly. But like that Royal Rumble, aside from, I remember Bob Backlund was in there for a while. Bob Backlund was in that Royal Rumble for a while. The Giant Gonzalez's and all of that. But at the end, we left talking about Yokozuna, and they set that up beautifully. I would say that's his classic moment. The classic rivalries, honestly, the Undertaker stuff, man. Like the Undertaker stuff, it's notable. It's not classic, but it's notable. It's notable. Um, everything else that I'm thinking of, I more so want to transition those to the defining and redefining moments, just to give them some meat. Not to say that it doesn't have it, but I think they're more notable in for their moments. Let's see, another classic rivalry. Man, hmm, uh, I'm gonna go with I'm I'm gonna go with the 2.5. I'm gonna go with a three. Sorry, three. So three. Um, Again, they're notable. I wouldn't necessarily call them classic. And then let's go into the defining and redefining moments. Scale from 1 to 5. I mean, in the WWF era, this man ended Hulkamania. There was never a rebuttal from Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan gets his get back. The Hulkster gets his get back. Ultimate Warrior beat him. All over WCW. Y'all see what happened? Hogan gets his win back, and I know Hogan beat him first within seconds, but King of the Ring 1993, the last WWF like new generation type of a new generation era. The last image that you all seen from Hulk Hogan was him getting the bonsai drop, I think, with the Japanese flag over him, and he never got that back. That's a defining moment. That's a defining moment. As a matter of fact, anytime, and this is very rare, but anytime you beat Hulk Hogan for a world title, that's a defining moment. That automatically puts you at a 4. the very least, that automatically puts you at a four. Can we agree to that? Let's see. Also, it's another redefine a defining moment. There were I guess booking gets a lot of credit for this because the way they did him at Survivor Series 1994, him losing the casket match and being out until WrestleMania 11 and being Owen Hart's mystery partner. When Owen mentioned I have a partner and he announced who that partner was, he said Yokozuna. When he came out, I remember going, it's for the skin guns. How are they gonna win? Like, go back and watch that. Go back and watch that announcement. Watch him come back, and then the smoking guns come out, and tell me the air isn't out of that building. Because now you're looking at Billy and Bart like, well, well, hey, you know, do what you can, man. Do what you can. And then yeah, so I like they booked Yoko really well. Uh class defining moments. I guess another one was when he turned against Jim Cornette and gave him the bonsai drop. I mean, yeah, he divorced himself from his mouthpiece, and I think that was good. I'm gonna score this one. You know what? Five. I'm gonna give this a five off the strength that based on the first one, Mr. Wrestling in the 80s and the early part of the 90s, Mr. Hulk Hogan, you beat Hulk Hogan. It was I don't care if it was screwy, but after that, Hulk Hogan went to WCW. He never got his get back. And I remember seeing the still visual of this. Yokozuna giving Hulk Hogan the bonsai drop in the headline saying Hulkamania is, ooh, come on. I got to score that a five. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section. This one was difficult and fun at the same time. I was a huge fan of Yokozuna. I loved watching him. And in retrospect, I mean, because back then he was a monster heel and he had beat Bret, but when Bret beat him, yes, as and Bret did it at WrestleMania 10 in a way that was fitting for Bret and that was fitting for the underdog again. This time on a bad wheel. So like those moments are all in there. You know, I think he checks off the objectives really well. It's just, we unfortunately we just didn't get a lot of it, whether it was due to health issues. But on top of that, like he was with the Undertaker's crew, and everybody has great stories about Yokozuna. He was the even better man, and for Bret Hart's rating scale, I'll give him a 10, and on ours, I give him a perfect five for being a stand-up gentleman and one that his peers and the boys respected and they loved, man. Yokozuna, he was a legend, man. He's definitely a legend. And in the spirit of this, I'm gonna go back and watch a few of his matches. The first time he fell, that he hit the canvas against Hacksaw was, I mean, that deserves to be a defining moment here because there was a build up to it. And Jim Duggan was an opponent that we all knew he was credible. Didn't think he was going to win, but we thought he was going to do damage. It was like the boxer that finally got cut for the first time, and it showed some sense of vulnerability, and it proved that he was human. Okay, so he can be beat. So this can happen. So yeah, Yokozuna was a fun part of my youth as a young Mark or Smart, and I enjoyed welcoming him into the Smart Tank and on this episode of the Essentials. You guys, let me know what you think of it in the comment section. We love to engage with you, and until next time.